So, we haven't spoken about Joker 2, Folie, Deux, in what I'd say is around 5 months now, which is a long time. I always said around about 5 months ago that I wanted to do another discussion series, Q&A type, theory time video. This is just like any of my other discussion series on the channel, whether it's DCU Chapter 1, the Batverse with Matt Reeves' Batman, and let's now revisit Joker. It's been quite a while, as I said, like 4 or 5 months, coming up to 5 months. Let's see what you guys have to say about it, because don't forget, Joker, after Aquaman 2, is the only film coming out next year for DC, and it's not a part of any cinematic universe. It's an Elseworlds movie, and this movie has got a lot of people excited for it, and a lot of people who really aren't excited for it, given what we've heard about it somewhat so far. We have Daniel G1578 saying, my theory for Joker 2 is that the majority of the movie will take place inside of Arkham Asylum and will develop the relationship between Harley and Joker. By the end of the movie, he'll escape with help from her, just like how in part 1, he didn't really become Joker until the end. I think the Joker movies will be more slowly building to the Joker character we all know. In part 1, he goes crazy and adopts the persona. Part 2 will show off his manipulation skills, smarts, etc. I could be completely wrong though. So this one, I mean, no matter how much I covered when it was shooting a few months ago, we've only really seen a portion of the scenes. We know that Arthur was attending this big court in Gotham. We know there's a bunch of protesters outside, so it looks like Arthur is being tried in court for the crimes that he committed during Joker 1 by none other than District Attorney Harvey Dent. And again, like some of the signs say Harvey or Dent is a clown. We know that there's a bunch of people on the opposite side, such as press, reporters, some even presenting newspapers to Harleen Quinzel, played by Lady Gaga, saying that she's going to hell. But the main thing is, it looks like some kind of escape happens during this court scene from what we can gather. But that's more or less the gist of what we actually saw on location shooting. So Arthur, there might be an explosion that allows him to get back into Gotham City. But what happens after that? All we know is that towards the end of the filming, and this is what I didn't really cover on the channel, so like 5 months later now, we obviously had that scene with, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, Lady Gaga's Harleen Quinzel and Arthur Fleck's Joker on the staircase. And yet there's still so much context missing, but what I'm trying to get to here is that isn't the entire movie. There would have been still so much shot indoors that make up a massive portion of the movie. So what I'm trying to say as well is that, yeah, maybe a massive majority of the movie will take place in Arkham, because I've been going back and forth on that for quite a bit. I thought, yeah, sure, the beginning of the movie, from what we've heard, you know, will be taking place in Arkham. Perhaps Arthur attending his court date for what happened in the first movie isn't right away. It might be after 30 minutes of screen time or so, but the first 30 minutes to 45 minutes is his time in Arkham, perhaps when, from what we've heard, Arthur and Harleen Quinzel bond over Judy Garland music during their Arkham State Hospital therapy sessions or whatever's going on there. And we know that she must have been a patient from what we can gather, because going back to the protesters outside the court building for Arthur Fleck's trial, one of those people, as Harley Quinn, or Harleen at this point, is attending court, says, "You're going to hell." And on that newspaper, as you're probably seeing on screen right now, it says, "Crazy in love." Joker has a new love, and everyone knows about Joker, and they're even using the actual shot from the first movie in where he had just killed Murray Franklin, and they are also using a mugshot of Harleen Frances Quinzel from within Arkham State Hospital. So this makes sense with how they may bond, you know, as patients at Arkham. But my theory of this, that I've maintained this entire time, is that maybe Harleen has been there for, like, God knows how long, and she's coming towards the end of her sentence, or whatever stay she has at Arkham State Hospital. But that doesn't mean she's necessarily sane. But the people at Arkham may think she's sane, but unfortunately for her, maybe she was on the right track of things. Maybe she was getting better, but when Arthur entered on her way out, so who knows really how much time they spent together, but on her way out, in the grand scheme of her stay there, she had bonded with Arthur, but she's getting out. So that's kind of perfect for Arthur if Harleen Quinzel is being reintegrated into, being a citizen again, right? Because when he goes to court, what can she help him with? Now she's madly in love. She's being reintegrated into the city as a citizen. She's no longer an Arkham patient, but she's still arguably very unstable. She can maybe help break him out in where there's no better opportunity than that, when the prisoner actually leaves the asylum to go into the city for a court trial. But the reason why I got into all of that is like how much of the movie is going to be building up until that point of what we kind of saw first when they were filming. So is it going to be like 45 minutes of them both in the asylum, and then eventually when she's on the outside, we see plenty of scenes of her getting back into the swing of things, life outside the asylum, but the thing is, she just can't get Arthur out of her head, but she's counting down the days until his trial is coming, because that way she can maybe, get him out of there. There's a lot of what pieces of the puzzle really fit together. But you have to think when Arthur attends the court building, that's like towards the beginning to middle portion of the movie. And then a portion of it will be set out in Gotham City. But truly, it's really hard to gauge how much of the setup there will be taken from scenes within Arkham Asylum, or if they end back up in Arkham, how much of it will be there as well, because there's been lots of shots of people filming the filming, if you will, of Arkham, where there's like fires at Arkham, there's like patients running out, and it's like, okay, well, what happens there? Because I doubt that's how Arthur escapes the first time, because we know that's likely the court building thing we've just been over. So is there a second attempt? Is that kind of how the movie is somewhat ending, with them trying it again? And so this is when ZG Huck says, I'm super hyped for this movie. Do you think this film will be told from Arthur's delusions point of view or Harley's? And the thing with that is, I think the answer is both, quite literally. We've got another question here from Starvin Jackalope saying, could the musical aspect of the film all be taking place in Harley's head, similar to how we saw things play out differently in Arthur's head in the first film? So with the first part of this question from ZG here, I think it's going to be both. Like, Folie à Deux, loosely translates to like a shared madness, or a madness for two. So it's not just one. That would be the first movie, as you kind of point out. So this movie will, I truly do believe, give you the perspective of both characters. I don't think they'll make that clear. I think sometimes they could actually play with the audience, just like how the first movie does, and where they give you examples of where things seem like it's a clear Joker moment, and where he's imagining it, like the Zazie Beetz character being his girlfriend, Sophie Dumond, I believe it was. But then still, with the ending of the movie, it really makes you think, well, actually, did any of that happen, or did some of it happen, or did 3/4 of it happen, or did 3/4 of it not happen? Like, you don't know. So with this movie, I think they're going to make it fairly clear that, oh, okay, this is definitely happening. Like, oh, there's this point of view from Joker, and clearly the point of view from Harley when she's imagining this big musical number and things get very theatrical, perhaps. That's clearly not real. But then they might flip it on its head, and you might be like, oh, damn, I didn't expect that this is a scene that really happened, and they framed it in that way. I think there's going to be a lot of toying with the audience there that will leave you walking away from the movie once again truly thinking, wait, okay, so I think I get it. But when it comes to this scene about 2 hours in, did Joker really do that, or was it Harley's perspective? And was Joker really the one who was in this position, or was it actually his plan at this point, and this is what he's led Harley to do? Do you know what I mean? That there will be, I think, so much interpretation there, which is what I think makes Todd Phillips' approach to this Joker-verse, if you will, with these first two movies so fun. I can imagine some people saying that, the whole questioning it and open to interpretation thing, I don't need to see that again for the second movie like we saw it in the first one. But I argue against that, because now you have another character of whom is very intrinsically linked with that of the Joker. Who is that? Harley Quinn. Harleen Quinzel. Now you're going to see a very intriguing, in my opinion, origin story to how these characters could meet in this way, but through a lens in where it's very true to the characters and their mental state, their perspectives, their psychology, in where you, as an audience, despite quite literally buying a Blu-ray or something, or buying a movie ticket, you're seeing the film, you still truly won't know how to interpret it necessarily, or it will require a lot of thinking, or it will play with your mind and your interpretation of it throughout, because that's how truly screwed up it is in the grand scheme of things with both characters. So I'm not trying to say it will be massively complicated. I'm just saying that the journey you go on with both characters, I think, will be hopefully very intelligently confusing in a purposeful way that is yet very true to that of Joker and Harley Quinn. So as for ZG Huck's question, I think it will be told from Arthur's delusions and Harley's. And as for Starvin Jackalope's question here, could the musical aspect of the film be all in Harley's head? I don't necessarily think so. I wouldn't be surprised if you could make an argument like it is going to be all from Lady Gaga's Harleen, but I don't think so. I remember watching the behind the scenes for Joker 1, and you can observe this anyway from the first movie. Todd Phillips very specifically talks about how, and it's funny, you know, considering what we're getting in the second movie, how Arthur is a very musical person. It kind of flows throughout his body, and they talk about that. Obviously, when it comes to spinning the clown sign at the beginning, how he's just kind of dancing. But then when he's obviously run away after killing the Wayne employees and he gets into the bathroom and you get him doing all of this stuff. He is very, and Joker anyway in the comics and Harley are very theatrical musical people. They love singing and dancing and being also psychotic at the same time. So I don't think it will just be from Harley. Especially, and by the way, these aren't spoilers, there is a rumor, and we know anyway, Judy Garland is an inspiration in this movie. It's just that we've heard that when they're both in Arkham, and I do believe this rumor to an extent because of, again, that when people were filming, we had that newspaper of her having a mugshot as a patient, being like, Arkham State Hospital, Harleen Francis Quinzel. So I do believe they bonded over Judy Garland music. And, you know, again, in a mad love kind of way, Joker being Joker, why would you want to fall in love with that guy? Like, my God, but Harleen does. So they'll bond over that music, and that's when introduced the title of the movie, Folie, Deux, Shared Madness. They become like symbiotic in a way. Like she gets out there, in my theory of earlier, and how maybe she was towards the end of her stay and she just gets out there and does everything she can to break him out of his trial. But then still through that crazy Bonnie and Clyde psychotic Joker and Harley romance, you will still have perspectives of musical numbers. Now, maybe Harley's will be a bit more theatrical. We know what Arthur's like from the first movie to an extent. We can take a guess into how Todd Phillips will go about things, but we really don't know if she's going to have the more eccentric delusions where, you know, there might be a different style to Arthur's delusions of maybe the musical aspects of the film. But the delusional aspects also might not just be unique to musical things. They could be just like the first film. There was so much delusional aspects in there to the point of where, even though, yes, it seems to be canon that he killed Murray Franklin, and that's what he's, you know, going to court about in this movie, and that's how Harleen, or that's the location where she breaks him out. But there's still other parts of that movie where you question what was real or not. And that wasn't to do with anything really particularly being a musical. And what I'm on about is the whole Thomas Wayne stuff, the Penny Fleck stuff, and how they made her out to be crazy. But then when he's like going like this in the mirror, he looks at that handwritten message, I believe, from Thomas Wayne, and where it does seem to still indicate that they were a thing back in the day. So he could technically be a bastard of Thomas Wayne, if you will. So like, I love how they play with all that stuff still. And that had nothing to do with musical stuff. So in the second movie, what I'm trying to get to here is, I think there'll be a whole range of unreliable narration, if you will, or scenes that take place. But yeah, I've rambled enough about this one. Could the musical aspect of the film be taking place in Harley's head? I don't think so, given what I said. I think maybe a big portion, perhaps. Maybe she's more eccentric with her love of the musical aspects. But again, for the reasons I said about how Arthur is so musically linked as well, how he is probably just as interested in the Judy Garland vibe as what Harleen is and where they bond with it. I think as a result, he will be also manifesting some of that in the delusions that get portrayed in the film. So Temple277 here says, can't wait for Joker 2. I think that it's the same situation as it was with Joker 1, where most people thought that it would be utter dogshit quality, but it turned out to be a masterpiece for most people. But after all, let's hope for the best, and we shall see, I guess. Now, 100% before Joker came out, this is why I made a video, and I'm going to repeat the formula there and do it again for number 2, or Folie. Deux. I made a video titled, like, why I think Joker will be great, because at that time, I think, and it's the exact same, it's not the exact same, but it's a very similar situation being mirrored, just taking a different form, because it's a different story of a movie, right? And where the first Joker, people were like, why do we even need this? I admit, like, so let me put it this way as well. I always like to put both of my feet on both sides of the fence. I don't always like to be completely ignorant to other people's opinions of whom I disagree with. I try and vibe where they're coming from, or even sometimes I might have a similar apprehension, but I just don't go as full send into it as they do. So I have to admit, like, when Joker was coming out, or even before we got the first trailer for the first movie, I was like, yeah, it is kind of a weird choice, isn't it? You know, doing an Elseworlds Joker story. There is no Batman in it. It's completely unrelated, and it's kind of a character study. But I also like to see the merits in that, which is why ultimately I was a vocal follower of the movie, dug the concept of it. But I totally saw why people were like, eh. And then, you know, even as we got more and more into the marketing, people were like, what the hell? This is going to be garbage. Love Joaquin Phoenix, but what the hell? And then when the movie came out, for the most part, other than the media trying to shit on it and, you know, saying it's going to turn everyone into incels and whatnot, which is kind of hilarious, it did extraordinarily well. I don't need to tell you guys, like, it made over $1 billion. Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar. Can't say the score, like Hilda something, she won an Oscar, rightfully so. The score's freaking amazing, and she's coming back for the second movie. Thank God. It's such a, oh my God, don't get me started on the score of Joker, because you know, the way to get into the character and the kind of cello and the strings of what they incorporate into that, absolutely, music is everything when it comes to movies. But anyway, clearly people enjoy Joker 1. I'm still getting comments. I think even in the community tab section of what I put out for this video, people are still like, not my Joker. Didn't care about the first movie. It was ass. It's just like, well, okay, that's your opinion. Still a lot of people loved it though. $1 billion Oscar winner, you know. Either way, so Joker 2, then comes the thing and where I totally understand again. Do we need a Joker sequel? Arguably, no, we don't. You don't need it. You get all kinds of comments coming off of the back of that being like, well, the first one made $1 billion, so of course they're making a second one. Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, they saw how successful it is, and so they want to see if there's merit to make another movie. But I do believe that they also saw genuinely in the story, on top of wanting more money, of course, that there is more merit to and more story there to make a sequel movie. And Joaquin Phoenix, sure, he probably likes money as well, but he has, I would say, after following him for basically my whole life since I saw Gladiator as a very young child, he's quite an artist, an actor of integrity, and he wouldn't just do it for the sake of it. So I do think that they came up with a good story there. Now, that doesn't really matter in a lot of naysayers' minds, because A, they're like, probably like, okay, whether they enjoy Joker 1 or not, they're now saying no matter what, number 2, but then number 2 being a musical, no, like absolutely not. Now, I've tried to level with so many people here saying, I feel like I would have 10 years ago made that same comment saying, oh, fuck it, it's a musical, like not remotely interested. Now, I don't not like musicals. I saw The Greatest Showman, and I remember going in there, not even realizing at the time that it was a musical, and then going down the escalator to the theater, actually about to walk in. My fiance told me that, and I actually got like a wave of frustration. I was like, God, I'm not going to enjoy this. And I loved it. So I really did. I really enjoyed it. Now, again, having said that, that doesn't make me a lover of musicals. I still wouldn't really go see a musical. I don't know. I wouldn't be against it. I'm just trying to explain to you that I don't particularly care. It's not like I dislike them, but it's not that I love them. But I'm not against them. So I'm just trying to say to people who are like, hearing Joker 2 could be a musical and how that really puts them off, I can see where they're coming from. But I do think, similar to what Temple was saying here, this is leading people to write off the film instantly, up until a point of where I don't think they realize that they will I think there's a good chance, at least, that they will still potentially really enjoy the movie. Plus, I think the musical thing is being blown out of proportion a little bit, because it was reported by a major trade along quite a while ago, can't remember if it was Deadline or Variety, in where they're talking about how, you know, it's got a little bit of a, you know, increased budget because of complicated musical sequences, but an insider, like, though an insider stresses that Joker 2 is more like A Star Is Born than In the Heights. Now, what they're saying there is that, yes, it could have musical aspects to it, of which I really want to argue is really in line with these theatrical, eccentric, crazy, psychotic characters, Joker and Harley Quinn. They've done it a billion times before, so it actually really does work, especially in a delusional space, especially within the plot of the story, bonding over Judy Garland music, they're crazy, kind of, you get it. Like, so it's very accurate that way. But just to reassure some of those who are like, a musical? Is this going to be, again, as I've said before, like The Greatest Showman, where there's kind of maybe 1 or 2 sentences of dialogue before they break into song and dance again? No, the reason why they say it's more like A Star Is Born versus that of like In the Heights is because A Star Is Born, or even like Joaquin Phoenix's other movies where he played Johnny Cash, Walk the Line, it has music a part of the movie, but it's still like got scenes in it, like a drama. It's still got like, or Joker will still be a crime thrillery story with narrative there, scenes and where they talk, just like the first movie. It's just they're going to have dedicated certain moments for a deliberate delusional musical number which gets theatrical. But there's a big difference between that, or like A Star Is Born, versus In the Heights. There's a big difference between Joker 2 and The Greatest Showman. Does that make sense? So I think I've seen that's reassured some people, but I still hope that they're not getting reassured and where they're like, oh, thank God, because, you know, I can deal with those musical numbers in the movie if it's just going to be like that. No, I would say I hope that you're getting reassured that, okay, it's not a Greatest Showman, but you're still going to enjoy those crazy little moments, because that's the way I see it. I'm looking forward to most of the scenes, from what we know, at least from what we've heard so far, being like Joker 1 or like A Star Is Born, where you have Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga still playing like a typical movie. But when it gets into that moment and where there's a song, I'm still going to appreciate it. Now, yeah, I might disagree if it did go full Greatest Showman. I might be like, oh, but I kind of wanted a bit more of like a typical movie that wasn't so musical number oriented every 3 to 6 minutes. I guess what I'm trying to get down to with the brass tacks of this conversation is that there's still going to be some musical elements in it, even if it isn't going as hard on the musical stuff as The Greatest Showman did, and it's more like A Star Is Born. And if you've seen A Star Is Born, you will know exactly what I mean. If you've seen Walk the Line, you will know exactly what I mean with how they're still like a typical movie, but incorporating music. I still think people should enjoy that. Like, what makes you feel so uncomfortable in where it gets to a musical bit, especially if it fits in the plot very, very well and helps evolve the kind of visual presentation of what the story is trying to tell you with the shared madness of that of the Joker and Harley Quinn. It's a very good tool to use, and I think it could be really, really well done. And that's coming from someone who isn't crazy and gets really into the mood of seeing a musical. Like, I really mean that. So I hope that gives some faith. And coming back down to what Temple said, I do think this is why a lot of people are viewing that, okay, they said what they had to say about the first movie, but now, on top of a second movie, why do we need the sequel? Oh, God, on top of why do we need a sequel? It's a musical. Completely screw that. When the trailers start to come out, or maybe not, to be honest, but when the movie comes out, or when people finally get a taste, and they're like, oh, damn, this actually looks pretty. I don't know if I'm going to admit this, but, like, it looks pretty cool. I think people will start to think that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, like, my gut instinct is telling me that this will be, like, people are sleeping on it right now, or if you're not sleeping on it, you're in a very small crowd of like, okay, I think this Loki has tons of potential, or you're in the other crowd of absolutely hating on it. But those other people will start to wake up when the time comes. Up next is from Emo Nemo saying, do you think that this movie will be as successful as the first financially? I think DC needs a win before Superman Legacy, but I don't know if normal people are excited for this movie. Do I think it would be as successful as the first one? I would put, for now, extra doubt on that. I think it still will be successful, but like the first one making well over $1 billion is, you know, crazy, especially for the budgeting it had. I think it had around, don't quote me on this, but it was around a 70, give or take, odd $1 million budget, because Warner Brothers at the time didn't believe in it. But Todd Phillips was like, well, I'm making it anyway. Now, obviously, there's marketing on top of that, but compared to like something like Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, the Flash movie, $300 to $400 million, you know, give or take, with movies like that these days, with marketing included, and then needing to make, you know, well over $600+ million to even start to break even. You know, having 70 plus marketing on top of that and making $1 billion is absolute slapping win to incredible, mad, bloody, insane levels. It was such a big deal with how successful Joker was. And then you know, a couple of Oscars. So the second movie, I think, it being a sequel, you know, sometimes sequels do spell success, but sometimes, you know, sequels, even if they're good, just still don't quite catch up with what maybe was the first very successful movie. So I'd still like to think that the movie could make well over $600 million. Now, it does have a bit more of a budget. I think it's around, with what is being heard with the musical numbers, around 140-50 million. I could be wrong about that, but it's definitely more than the first movie, but not nearly as much as what a lot of movies get made for in this same space, as you guys know, with what I just mentioned, with modern Hollywood comic book movies with $200-300 million plus. I want it to make around the Batman. I'm vibing, you know, because the Batman made $770 something million. I think Joker could do that. You know, a lot of people, you know, the first one made $1 billion. It doesn't mean that the second one will make $1 billion. A similar performance to that of how the Batman performed at the box office in its entire run would be very, very good for Joker 2. Also, at the time as well, again, the fact that Joaquin is signed on to a second movie, and the fact that he won an Oscar for it, the fact that they got another Oscar as well, the fact that Lady Gaga is in this, whether you like or dislike that, I see such split opinions online with regards to that. I think this will be the talk of the town, especially, like, we're talking about it right now, but I don't think, if you're listening to this right now, even maybe you realize how much buzz, for better or for worse, this will be getting when the marketing starts. Everyone will be talking about, oh God, it's that Joker again. Like, wait, Joaquin's doing another one? Some people who, like Joe down the street, who's 37 to 45, like, hey, well, I didn't really know about this. I don't pay so much attention to this stuff. Oh, but that looks pretty cool. Or maybe, I don't know if it looks cool, but I might go see it because Joaquin is Joker again. And I liked that first one. He won an Oscar for that, right? So, like, there's so many things that will be going off in people's heads. So I think they are also going to very intelligently edit these trailers and, you know, market this in such a way where it's like, hey, remember that first movie? You're going to want to see this second one. I think they're going to really highlight how messed up psychologically this will be. You remember how the marketing was for, like, Arthur Fleck in the first one? They had this really creepy undertone to it. You know, it was Arthur talking about, you know, my mom always told me to smile and put on a happy face. And you saw him, like, talking, but then it just got grimmer and grimmer. And you had that gorgeous, sinister, tragic score in the background. And then, like, it would burst into a bit more of a theatrical one where he's, like, running, you know, from the Wayne killings that he did, Wayne employee killings, and then he's in the bathroom, and then, you know, it climbed and climbed depending on what trailer it was. Imagine what they could do with the second movie. I really do think there's a lot of potential. So marketing is a very important thing. It really is. That's why it's called marketing. They want people to market to. They want people to go see it. So I know I'm dragging out this answer, but yeah, like, Joker 2 is a good movie to have in the DC cinematic universe break that we're having. Because again, if you didn't know, Aquaman 2 and the Lost Kingdom, guys, is the last DCE movie that we kind of have until Superman Legacy, you know, properly kicks off the new DCU. And we have one more thing coming out in between, and then that's Joker 2. I would have loved to have said Penguin as well, even though that would have been another Elseworlds thing. But, you know, writer's strike, actor's strike seem to have delayed that to the point of where I think it would be coming out 2025 now, maybe. But Joker is 100% coming out in October next year. And I don't think it will be as successful as the first financially. I would love to be wrong about that. If it made anywhere near $1 billion, that would be stellar. But my hopes right now is, yeah, I would say, I would think, yeah, way more than 600 million. But will it make more, like, will it make 700 to 800 million? That's where I'm kind of swimming at that side of the pool right now. But that doesn't mean, like, I see it making 300 million. Like, absolutely not. Like, or Black Adam numbers, 393 million. No, it should still make the Batman numbers, I think. I would be happy with that. But if it made more than the Batman, 770 million, I would take that as a huge W. Like, seriously. If it made less, I'd be like, I really think it could have made 750 plus. I'm not saying 1 billion. I'm not saying 900 million. But 750 plus. Anything below that, But yeah, what do you guys think? One more thing, you're saying, I don't know if normal people are excited for this movie. If they're not excited for it now, again, it's the same as the first movie situation. I think people will be sleeping on it until they start to wake up. And I think when they will start to wake up is when, truly, just like what happened with the first movie, people started to wake up when things started kicking off. But until then, you will have all the takes out there of why do we need this movie? It happened with the first one. Why do we need this second movie? Why are we getting a musical? Why is Lady Gaga in it? And blah, 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 blah. So you'll just have to watch this space. And I am optimistic that people will indeed wake up. And even those who are saying, I don't care about this, looks like a piece of trash, blah, 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 they'll still go see the movie. Like, maybe not 10 out of 10 people, but I would say like a huge proportion of like 7 out of 10 people still saying that will go see it. So Matthew Fleur 3791 says, I hope we get Harley as a doctor, even if it's brief. So, this is another part of the movie when we saw the filming and how, on the newspaper, it clearly shows Harley and Frances Quinzel as a patient. And, the fact that they're advertising that, because obviously it's a big story in the Gotham media right now, that guy who shot Murray Franklin, Joker, is going to trial now in court. Oh, he's got a new love. And look, it turns out to be a patient. But she's free now, and she's actually attending the court, which is why there's a lot of people, like hounding Lady Gaga's Harley when she was walking up those steps. Now, that doesn't, a lot of people were kicking off saying, what? They've changed Harley completely. Is she even going to have Harley's name? But low-key, she does, because we've seen that now. So she is Harley and Frances Quinzel, but she's a patient. But what Matthew is saying here is, I think, could still be a possibility. As we know, being a clinical, or like, a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a therapist, doesn't make you immune from being a criminal. It doesn't make you immune from being crazy yourself at all, in fact. It means you kind of understand a lot, scientifically and medically about what could happen and how to handle certain situations clinically. But, as per Harley's story, actually, funnily enough, that's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to the source material. She understands a lot, yet she still got Stockholm Syndrome, became obsessed, and put up with a lot of things for a lot of different reasons. And her medical degree and whatnot didn't prevent that from happening. So what I'm trying to say is, Harley could have very well, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if they would lean into it a ton, but they might reference quite notably in a line or two of dialogue in the movie, maybe between their time in Arkham together towards the beginning of the movie, that she, I used to be a therapist or something like that. She might say something like that, but perhaps, I don't know why she got put in Arkham. We don't know. Perhaps she abused patients or like manipulated them. I don't know. Maybe this will be relevant to the plot as well, but I don't think we're going to get her as a doctor unless they do a flashback, like where it's very briefly shown. I'm not talking like, hey, pure 10-minute dedicated scene of a flashback of her as a doctor, but there could be like that kind of artistically, flashy way of doing it, and where it's brief, shows her as a therapist, but hey, that's in the past because she's now in Arkham State Hospital. And when she gets out, because she does seemingly get out by the time that Arthur's going to court in the movie, which is why a lot of people notice her as Joker's girlfriend, who used to be a patient as well. She's clearly never going to get a job as a therapist again after having been in an Arkham State Hospital for the insane, as they say. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I wouldn't rule out her having been a therapist, but that is clearly in the past for whatever reason. Or, to be honest, they might not do it. She may have never have been a therapist, but I think why not? Like, it is still very believable that someone ends up in Arkham State Hospital. even if they trained to be a therapist in the past. So up next, we got a couple of questions, I think, about Harvey Dent. So Silly Guy Man Dude says, I'd like to know how you think they'll handle Harvey Dent. I imagine that he'll be somebody Arthur murders, lawyer. Perhaps Harley and Arthur, set him on fire to get revenge for sentencing Arthur. And Sky Von 3934 says, yes, Boba, I have a question on what you think might happen with Harvey Dent. Will he get scarred by a shotgun blast to the face by Harley, or will he be scarred by a snuck-in bomb and smashed by rubble, or will it be the traditional acid to the face? In fact, do we even know who is playing? So Harvey Dent clearly is going to be in this movie. I don't think we know who Harvey Dent is right now. I think what will happen with Harvey is that we will see a bit of the trial. I think Arthur will be standing there. I think we're going to get scenes of Harleen there, and Arthur's going to be really happy that she's there. Again, God knows what they're doing with perspectives at this point. At some point, I think the score, the tension's got to raise, and I don't think even truly, maybe Arthur will know about it, but maybe he doesn't know exactly what will happen because the communication would have broken down. But maybe before Harley left Arkham, she's like, I'm going to get you out of here, baby. Something like that. No matter what, I'm going to get you out. But he's still not privy to how hard she went on that. Like, that explosion, I'm not sure Arthur will expect. Now, the reason how Harleen pulls this off is, don't forget that they've got a lot of followers. There's someone in that crazy-ass Joker crowd who's probably helped Harleen rig bombs or something. So I think Harvey Dent, I don't know if this could be a big nod with this to Two-Face. I mean, you could argue, what if, like, Arthur's so, I'm so screwed, I'm never getting out of here. I could, like, somehow squirt acid in your face, but, you know, when he's taking the stand. But I think it's more realistic that when the trial's happening, through the escape, because as I put it earlier, what is a better way to help Arthur escape? Well, it's not when he's in Arkham. It's when he's been escorted out into the city. You've got so many followers outside who could make things so much easier for your escapes. You know, start stampeding, you know, hard for cops to get through the crowd, similar to the first movie on the train. They're trying to break through, that kind of thing. But a bomb goes off. So as you can imagine, people could get injured in that explosion. Maybe Harvey's face, you know, on top of rubble, you know, a bit of, you know, the explosion and fire gets on it. I'm not sure. I don't think we're going to necessarily see, like, oh, look, the Two-Face origin. Here's what he looks like afterwards. Maybe we get a newspaper report when they're out in Gotham afterwards, being like, oh, you know, district attorney who was prosecuting, or like whatever, Arthur Fleck at his trial has been injured and his face has been disfigured. That could be like an insane, you know, hint towards how, you know, that's Two-Face's origin. But yeah, the way I see the scene playing out is I like to think that before the explosion, we get a cool scene of just Arthur being tried at court, you know, for what happened in the first movie. And he's being asked, he's being cross-examined by Harvey Dent. And you all know how intense cross-examinations can get. And, you know, how will Arthur act towards that? It's going to be so fascinating. You're going to have a lot of people in the stalls watching. Maybe some supporters, maybe some not. Imagine the score as well. I don't think the explosion will happen right away, but just build up to it. Do something sick with Harvey Dent, getting his opportunity to ask questions to Joker on the stand. I don't know, but I really feel like they can do something with that. And that scene could last a good 10 minutes or something before the escape happens. They should milk that, because I think there could be something really cool with having Joker in a court, being judged for his crimes, and then eventually he gets out. And talking about this kind of makes me go back to what I was saying earlier. Yes, we've seen a few outdoor location scenes in where, you know, they're at the court, like he's driving up to it. Harley's walking up the steps. We saw her go up the steps a few times. She got confronted with the newspaper. People saying, you're going to hell. And, you know, him out in Gotham just walking around after the explosion in the same suit that's been all tattered. We've seen some Arkham location shooting. But other than that, you know, other than the stairs, which was the last day of shooting that they did, the shooting for the movie that they've done inside, you know, studio spaces, sound stages, and things like that could make up a huge portion of the movie. So again, this trial, just like the interior scenes of Arkham, could take up minutes upon minutes of screen time. I think a lot of people imagine these outdoor scenes to make up a massive part of the movie, but they could really be padded out by what we're talking about right now. Maybe more than 10 minutes inside court, the kind of questions that get asked. Maybe Harley saying something. I really don't know. But then, boom, the explosion happens. But that happens after some time. That is everything I want to ramble about today when it comes to Joker 2. I haven't done it in a long time, as you know, so it was really fun just diving back into that. If you want to see another one of these, let me know down in the comments below. Or I can do another type of video, maybe going over the top theories for Joker 2 or something like that. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you fellow Jokers in the next video. Goodbye.